After they hatched, they started eating his eye from the inside. What is one fact you learned that you wish you hadn't? The human anus can expand to 9 inches. Raccoons can get into a hole 6 inches across. If you sneeze hard enough, you can fracture a rib. But try to suppress a sneeze and you might rupture a blood vessel in your head or neck. When my wife was 34 weeks pregnant, she coughed real hard and broke a rib. That poor woman gave birth naturally with no epidural, low white cell count, and a broken rib. She is the toughest person I know. If you were hung upside down and sawed in half, crotch to head, you wouldn't die until the saw hit your lungs. It was a popular torture and execution back in medieval times. Also, common knowledge of anatomy, since there isn't anything immediately vital in between your balls and lungs. There's a certain species of beetle where the male drills a hole into the female with his penis, to create a vagina in order to reproduce. That most people alive will be forgotten forever within a couple of generations, 4 at most. That means you, me, your friends, lovers. Everyone. Coco is a kid's movie, but it portrayed this concept quite beautifully in my opinion. Cats and dogs that are white and have blue eyes are almost certainly deaf. Definitely not the worst fact that'll be in this thread, but just depressing whenever you see a cute kitty or puppy. They got a bad hand of recessive genes and are most likely totally deaf. Within 3 days of death, the enzymes from your digestive system begin to digest your body. I grew up Christian, and it was a hard pill to swallow, realizing that being Christian doesn't mean you're automatically a good person. That applies to every group, religion, and political party really. I later realized that this is why Christianity is based on the fact that all people are bad, and that we need grace and forgiveness. We are supposed to try to be good, even knowing that we will fail. But also knowing that we are forgiven when we do. Approximately 25,000 people die of starvation every day. I mean, I'd rather know than not, but there's no forgetting it. Years ago I watched an episode of the show Monsters Inside Me, where this guy was doing something outside and a fly flew into his eye. It only made contact with his eyeball for like a millisecond, but it was enough for it to lay eggs. After they hatched, they started eating his eye from the inside and he was starting to go blind until the doctor figured out what was wrong. Since I watched that, I get super paranoid whenever a fly goes anywhere near my face because of the fact that something like this can possibly happen to me. That real Parmesan cheese isn't vegetarian. I'm not a vegetarian, but my sister has been for 20 plus years and my mother has threatened to disown me if I tell her because my sister loves Italian food. I'm not good with secrets. We only know what 15% of the universe is made of. We use the term dark matter for 85% of the universe's mass, but we really only have guesses as to what it is. When a whale ejaculates, applies to all species, exact amounts vary though, they release 30 to 60 gallons of semen. Only 10 to 15% makes it into the female. There's no actual cure for cerebral palsy once it occurs, and docs don't seem to believe a cure can be found. Yet it's the most common cause of disability in children worldwide, according to some research. It's not a genetic condition or anything. For the most part, it's a brain injury incurred most frequently at birth and sometimes just before. It's actually horrible. I was really scared my 18-month-old had it when she was younger, as she had a strong left-hand preference. I mean, up until the point of birth, the baby is perfectly normal, and then because a cord gets wrapped around its neck, or the obstetrician makes a mistake and bam, cerebral palsy. It's actually the most common birth injury that OB-GYNs get sued for. I wish I'd never seen that picture of what the nerves in a horse's hoof looks like. Also that picture of what newborn horse hooves look like. Gives me the wibblies just thinking about it. A parasite that slowly eats your brain and eventually kill you, that you can get from having dirty water go up your nose. I think I read that it can happen if you swim in a lake or a pond or something like that. It was terrifying to think about it. I'm bipolar, and BP disorder shortens lifespan from 9 to 20 years. Smoking reduces life by roughly 8 years. I'm killing myself by being alive. James Jameson bought a little girl just to watch her be eaten by cannibals and the girl never screamed or struggled while being cut into pieces. I had to take a FDA course on food prep to manage a smoked jerky and cheese offshoot at the winery I worked at, and now I know how impossible it is to not contaminate food. And impossible doesn't seem like a strong enough word here. It's great that our internal protection systems are so good and capable of handling such a diverse range of contaminants because everything is constantly being contaminated. And while one person could be diligent and attentive enough to not contaminate their specific area, the likelihood that everyone involved in the processes to make all the various ingredients one uses it's not happening. The freaking ancient Romans used crushed mouse brains as toothpaste. The United States transferred a couple hundred German Nazi scientists into the US and allowed them the opportunity to live out the rest of their lives peacefully. Some even received awards from NASA. One even became the director of NASA, Kurt H. DeBus. The crazy part is that their contribution to science has probably saved thousands of lives and made our lives better. Ike Turner beat women. So did John Lennon, imagine that. Kandiru, a tiny parasitic freshwater fish living in South America, is reputedly capable of following a stream of urine to its source where it enters the body, and flares its barbed fins, keeping it firmly embedded in the flesh. How cats have sex. Cat penises have hooks that both keep the lady attached until the deed is done, and scrubs out enemy semen. If you make over $40,000 a year, you are in the top 1% of global income earners. Just does to show how absolutely awful the poverty in developing countries is. I once realized that when you smell someone else's fart, actual molecules from their anus are now being absorbed by the tissues in my nose. Smelling is transfer of matter. Thanks to the Hubble Deep Field picture, we now have confirmation there's thousands of galaxies, containing thousands of planets, as big as or bigger than our Milky Way. We are so insignificant. The skin of a human vagina is the same as the skin inside a human mouth. Eyelash mite infestation. It's just so gross. You can actually die from a broken heart. It's not just some romantic novel stuff, you actually can apparently. If you get pinned between a subway car and the platform the wrong way, you can live for some time but will die the moment they move the train. They will bring your loved ones over to say goodbye depending on their availability. Then at some point they move the train even if you're not dead yet. Don't know if loved ones watch this part. A guy I know told me a story about his army days where a fellow soldier was crushed between a wall and a reversing truck. He was crushed from the neck down, but still able to talk to his squad and move his head. The second the car was moved away from him, he dropped dead due to toxic shock. That you'd have absolutely no problem shoving your average light bulb in your mouth, but to take it out, you'd have to either break your jaw, teeth, or the bulb itself. That when you're cremated, the bones don't burn and have to be crushed. It's like a heavy-duty coffee grinder. In Japan, the family members are given small hammers to do the work. It's part of the process. You can inhale Naegleria fowleri, aka the brain-eating amoeba, in bodies of water-like lakes. It causes very vague symptoms, fever, nausea, headaches, and kills about 95% of people in about 2 weeks even with treatment. Sloths have nipples in their armpits. You're welcome. Alaska has a gigantic gap in men and women. 1 woman for every 5 guys. So chances are, she's already had sex with your cousin, brother, and best friend. And in Iceland, cause of the low population, they have an app to check if the person they want to have sex with is their relative or not, like a cousin you didn't know about. Why the guillotine was invented. It was invented because the executioner sometimes didn't hit the neck too hard, which caused the executionist to be still alive, but with a broken neck, and the guillotine didn't cause that. It led directly to a quick death. That libraries and library books are a huge bedbug risk. I'm too afraid to go anymore. The human jaw is strong enough to crush your own teeth. Your brain just doesn't allow you to. That when they take your intestines out for a surgery, they wiggle around, so they have to have special hooks to hang them on. Also, the surgeons just stuff your entrails back in your body and they move themselves into place. My friends aren't really my friends. They keep me around because I am generous with time and money. Sure, you can come round to my place and I'll feed you dinner. Sure, I will listen to you rant for an hour or so. As soon as I attempt to try and ask to talk about something I'm struggling with, just radio silence. But I can't stop seeing them because then they'll just have no social contact and I'll be even lonelier. Japanese honeybees will surround and heat up wasps or other bugs that invade the hive, cooking them alive. Meaning if a hive of these bees were to surround a person, the person would die of heat stroke. I am a scientist. Most modern, published, Peer-reviewed scientific papers are simply irreproducible results or false information. Modern science funding is based on politics, not product, and results are rarely checked. That sweat isn't what smells on your feet, but the bacteria eating it, and the smell is their excreta. Sure makes people who wear shoes with no socks suddenly start wearing them. The reason why you feel like falling in sleep is because when your heart rate drops to nearly zero, your brain sends an electric shock throughout your body to make sure you are still alive. Thanks for listening to Radio TTS. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell for more videos about knowledge that ruins your day. Please share your own facts in the comments below, so you can help ruin the day of others.